Good evening, guys. I hope you're well. I hope you've had a good week, and I hope you had a great weekend. I know we did. You remember last week we talked about Malbec and how I was saying that New World Malbec often is a bit stronger than the Old World Malbec, and therefore can give you a bit of a headache. Tested that theory out, and it turns out it is definitely true. Some Argentinian Malbec disappeared yesterday, and yeah. Things weren't great this morning. I wish I'd stuck with the French. I should listen to myself. Anyway, so this week we're going to mix things up a little bit and make a bit of a change to how we did it last week. We're going to have a chat today about a grape, a wee overview of the grape, of where it came from, its history, a few bits and pieces about it, where it's grown, etc. And then what we'll do is on Saturday we'll have a tasting of the grape in a couple of formats, and it gives you guys time, I hope, then to get hold of a bottle or two, if you want, of the wine and taste it with me. So whilst we may not be able to sit at a table and share the glasses together, unfortunately at this point, at least we can be drinking the same wine, and you can listen to my chat, and if you want to add comments onto the chat afterwards, you can, and if you agree with me or if you disagree with me, whatever, we can have a bit of a conversation about the wine that way. I thought it might be a bit more interesting for you guys than watching me sitting with a glass of wine drinking while you're sitting with nothing, or a cup of tea or something boring. So let's give that a go. So what we'll do today is a quick chat about the grape we're going to go into on Saturday, and then on Saturday itself we'll actually sit down with a glass. Hopefully the weather will be a bit better by Saturday. It's looking a bit crap today, isn't it? Can't believe the rain's back. Really, I think we might have had our summer already, guys. This is what happens at Scotland. 3 or 4 weeks of sun, that's us. Winter will be here again soon. Back to red wine soon. So this week is a white wine, all right? So what we're going to do, talk about Sauvignon Blanc this week. So Sauvignon Blanc is being celebrated on the 1st of May this week, on Friday. It's International Sauvignon Blanc Day, which I think was started by the New Zealand wine industry, maybe in cahoots with the Old World, one of the Old World companies, to push the wine and the grape, and it took off. Obviously, as you all know, Sauvignon Blanc's a very ubiquitous grape. Everyone drinks it. A lot of people only drink Sauvignon Blanc. If they're drinking a white wine, they won't go near anything else. They don't feel like they need to because it ticks all their boxes. A lot of people think it's a bit boring, Sauvignon Blanc. I don't think it's boring, I like it, but a lot of people think, maybe associate it with the mass-produced stuff from Chile or California in the 90s and noughties that you could get everywhere for a few quid a bottle. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible. I know at university I drank too much of that stuff and went off it quite badly for some time. But yeah, that's what you get for overindulging. It's not because the grape's bad. But what I say to people nowadays when they come to the bar and they're like, yeah, I don't really drink Sauvignon Blanc, I want something more interesting. Have you got any wild wines? Have you got any orange wines? I want something cool. Is actually Sauvignon Blanc's an amazing grape, an amazing wine. It produces a huge range of different styles. So it's a real shame when someone signs it off and says, no, I'm not interested in that, I want something different. You know, and you can say the same about a lot of grapes, but Sauvignon Blanc really is one of those divisive things. You know, it's like, love it, or you don't get near it because you think it's boring. So what I hope to do with you guys is explain a little bit about why the grape isn't boring, why it's a great wine to drink, and why it can tick so many different boxes depending on where you're getting it from. So historically, the grape came from southwest France. It was an indigenous grape called Sauvignon Blanc, they think. So wild white grape. And I think the Gauls started making wine first in France, or back down in history, back in the 3rd or 4th century. They came into southern France, found all these wild vines and wild grapes, started cultivating them, planting them into recognisable vineyards, pruning them, controlling their growth, getting the best out of the grapes. And that wine producing region in southern France became hugely famous with the Romans, who jumped on that and shipping that wine all over the world with their empire, and thus the notoriety and the fame, rather, of the French wine industry started. Now, whether Sauvignon Blanc or Sauvignon Blanc was around then, I'm not 100% sure, obviously. But it certainly gained a foothold very early on in southern France and in Bordeaux and Loire Valley. And those two places are probably these days considered to be the grape's spiritual home. I'd say Loire Valley, is synonymous with the grape for very good reason. So if you drink Sauvignon Blanc, you typically fall into one or two camps. If you drink French Sauvignon Blanc or Old World Sauvignon Blanc, then you probably like Sancerre. Sancerre in the Loire Valley is a major producer of what is often considered to be some of the best examples of the grape in the world. Sancerre is a very crisp, mineral, clean, well-balanced wine with lovely stony notes to it, very understated and very different to other representations of the grape. What I love about this wine is you can have that from Sancerre, then you can go and grab a glass of the same grape from Pouilly-sur-Loire, which is just across the way, and you can get a glass of Pouilly-Fumé, and that same grape, more or less very similar climate, geography is not dissimilar, will taste different. And that comes down to the terroir. And this is what I love about French wine. I'm sure I've banged on with you guys about this before. If you've ever put up with me for a few minutes in the bar and heard me bang on about this, terroir in France is key to their wine and why they make the wine they do and why they pursue the goals they do with their wine. So terroir refers to the critical components of geography, of climate and weather, soil type, specifically with Sancerre and Pouilly-Fumé. What that means is, in Sancerre you've got chalky soils, and the chalky soils keep the wine very crisp and clean tasting. You go to Pouilly-Fumé region or Pouilly-sur-Loire, the soil there is composed of flint. There's a lot of flint going on there, and the locals think that lends a kind of a gun-smoky, flinty taste to the wine, hence the Fumé addition to the name. And that's purely down to one element of the terroir changing, but the grape remains the same. Most of the techniques remain the same in the way they're farming it, and the climate's pretty much the same. I love that. I think that's really cool. And if you go down to Bordeaux, say you go to Graves in Bordeaux, and you get a Sauvignon Blanc there, it's going to be totally different to either one of them. Again, it's the same grape, same country. The climate's slightly different. I think up north you can have more of a continental climate. Down in, north, the Loire Valley is not particularly north, you know what I mean. Down in Bordeaux, you're going to get wines which are far more fruit driven, often a bit richer than the ones up north. And obviously Bordeaux also uses this grape to produce the world famous Sauternes, which is, it's an amazing wine. We have that at the bar. I don't tell many people about it because it's mainly for me. There's quite a few wines like that in the bar, actually. Do you know, if we ever open again, ask me what wines aren't on the board that I've got, and I'll tell you, you'll be surprised. There's loads of cool stuff in the bar. Sometimes I keep it for myself. There's got to be a benefit, right, to owning a bar. So you've got your Sauternes, which again is wildly different, and that all is down to the technique they use then to farm, where they maybe leave the grapes on longer on the vine, they ripen more, they blend them with the Semillon grape and bring out all these different elements of the wine, of the grape. What I think happened after France became quite famous for its Sauvignon Blanc grape was that other countries around the world were like, well, maybe we should try growing it, see how it works out here. And hence we start moving into the New World and how the grape spread around to the New World from France. I think it's in the 1880s it went out to California and took off massively. As you know, Californian Sauvignon Blancs available everywhere. It's often a bit cheap and cheerful, but not always. These days they've really stepped the game up and are competing again on the kind of higher stage. There was a lot of plonk around back in the noughties and the late 90s, which gave it a bit of a bad name. But it's come a long way, and I think these days Californian Sauvignon Blanc is incredibly sophisticated and can be blind taste testing can be very difficult to differentiate from stuff in the old world. The grape also obviously made its way over to Australia, where it's grown a lot in the Margaret River and produces some lovely complex mineral wines again, which are a product of the geography there. Product of the geography and a product of the cooling effects of the sea and so on. Made its way over to New Zealand, famously in the 1970s, and that gave us, I guess, arguably one of the most famous styles of Sauvignon Blanc, your Marlborough style. Marlborough New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is wildly famous these days. Farmed in a different way. Technique to produce the wine is a bit different to that in France. Terroir is obviously different. So all these fantastic styles are available, all from one grape. And the value of the grape is very different across the board there. You can go from quite cheap and cheerful stuff up to poulet fumés, or up to maybe even some aged stuff. You can actually age some of these wines from Bordeaux, where they're blended with Semillon. They'll have some age in them, and they can go up in price so much. So you can really spend a lot of money, or you can spend a little money, but you're still getting a lovely wine, and it's the same grape. And I find that fascinating. It's one of the coolest things about Sauvignon Blanc. What kind of mood you're in, you can always find a Sauvignon that's going to fit that mood, I think. You know, if you want a smoky, oaky wine, you can get one of them. If you want a nice, crisp, clean, refreshing wine, you can get one of them. If you want a sophisticated wine, you can get one of them. And you can't say that for all grapes, that's for sure. And these days, with Sauvignon being grown in Chile, as I said earlier, Chile is becoming a very, very popular place to grow the grape, and it's becoming hugely successful. Almost, I would say, nipping at the heels there of New Zealand. You've got South Africa growing it, Stellenbosch region. You can get it from anywhere these days, it seems. Maybe we should try growing it in Scotland. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Let you know how I get on. I guess it's a quick fire way to get to gout, isn't it? Yeah, we'll maybe not do that. So what we're going to try this week, guys, is comparing the old and the new world. What I want to do with you is, though, rather than me sit here drinking the wine and you not having any, is on Saturday we will compare two bottles, right? So we're going to compare our Marlborough New Zealand lamb made, which if you've been in the bar and you've ever tried our Sauvignons, you've probably had. Delicious, herbaceous wine. We're going to compare that with our Sancerre. We've got a couple of Sancerres in the bar. This is the one you'll see on the shelves. There's another one which is in our reserve list, which, as I said earlier on, if you don't ask me about wines that aren't on the board, you might not know about that, but we have a reserve list with some really nice stuff on it. A bit pricier, obviously, but this stuff is a beautiful example of Sancerre. And what I would like you guys to do is either pop down to the shops and get yourself a bottle of Sancerre or a bottle of Marlborough New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, or alternatively, we sell both of those wines. At the moment, we're delivering them. So if you want to actually drink the same wines I'm going to be tasting, then you can do that. You can drop us an email on iwantlejupe@gmail.com, and we will get one of those, or both of those wines, if you're feeling cheeky, to you for Saturday. And then Saturday evening, I'll pop the video out and you guys can sit down and enjoy the same wine as me. Or if you get your own, that's fine, as long as it's a Marlborough New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc or it's Sancerre, we'll be good to go. And we'll chat about the different techniques that are used, the different flavours that you can taste in these grapes, and you guys can give me your feedback as well. Hopefully be a bit more interactive and a bit more interesting for you. So until Saturday, guys, have a great week. Enjoy the rain. Really glad it's back. I'm sure you are. And yeah,